My father sold 3 things for $100,000. My address, a forged signature, and the ridiculous promise that I would marry the most famous singer in the country. He delivered the news through a video call from an airport lounge, while my mother waved 2 first-class boarding passes behind him. I was 21, exhausted, and mixing a commercial about toothpaste at 1 in the morning. The last thing I expected to see on my phone was Rhys Calder, wearing a tropical shirt and the expression of a man who had successfully monetized his only child. "Good news, son," he said. "Your lonely evenings are over. You can finally stop treating your dominant hand like a long-term relationship." I stared at the screen. Both of my hands have supported me more consistently than my parents. My mother covered her laugh with a travel magazine. "Don't be ungrateful," Dad continued. "We found you a beautiful fiancé. Rich, talented, internationally recognized. Honestly, she is wildly overqualified. You cannot find a fiancé for another adult. We didn't find her. She found us." That sentence tightened something cold around my spine. "Who?" Dad raised a glass of orange juice toward the camera. "You'll know when she arrives." "Arrives where?" My apartment buzzer sounded. Mom leaned into view. "Be polite, Rhys. She paid the full amount in advance." For several seconds, I forgot how language worked. "What amount?" "100,000, Dad said. "Think of it as a family development grant. Think of it as human trafficking." That phrase is unnecessarily negative. It is the correct amount of negative. An announcement called their flight to Lisbon. My parents stood so quickly that the camera spun toward the ceiling. "We have to board," Mom said. "The agreement is in your email. The money already cleared our debts, so please don't create a refund situation." "You forged my name on a contract?" Dad paused. "Forged is such a hostile word. We reconstructed your signature from a birthday card." The call ended. I dialed back, straight to voicemail. I tried my mother. Blocked. The apartment buzzer rang again, followed by 3 patient knocks at my door. Nobody knocked patiently at 1 in the morning unless they were very polite or very dangerous. I activated the camera, started recording on my phone, and kept the security chain fastened. When I opened the door 2 inches, I saw a woman in a black cap, a face mask, and a cream-colored coat. 2 suitcases stood beside her. A tired woman with a tablet waited several steps behind. The masked guest lifted her eyes. I recognized them before she removed the mask. Dahlia Wren had sold out stadiums on 4 continents. She had 11 platinum albums, 2 acting awards, and 60 million followers who analyzed every movement of her hands. Magazine covers called her the Midnight Siren because her voice could make heartbreak sound luxurious. I knew her as the girl who once smashed my phone against a rehearsal room wall because a classmate sent me a smiling emoji. "Hello, Rhys," she said. I shut the door. The chain rattled from the force. My heart was hitting my ribs hard enough to remix itself. "Rhys?" Dahlia's voice came through the wood. "Open the door." "No." Silence. When we were children, I had never said that word to her without immediately explaining, apologizing, and preparing to surrender. The single syllable felt almost illegal. "Your parents said you agreed," she replied. "My parents also claim extended vacations are a form of employment. I have your signature, forged from an old birthday card. I am recording this conversation, and I do not consent to you entering my home, moving in, marrying me, employing me, or purchasing any part of my life." The woman with the tablet whispered something. Dahlia ignored her. "You disappeared for 2 years." I left, without telling me. People escaping control rarely provide forwarding addresses. Her face changed. For one instant, hurt replaced the cold superstar mask. Then anger covered it. "You make it sound as if I imprisoned you. You locked me inside Studio B for 7 hours. You were refusing to finish the bridge of my song. That sentence is not a defense." The tired woman stepped forward. "Mr. Calder, I'm Juno Merrick, Ms. Wren's manager. I was told this was a consensual private engagement arranged by both families. If that is false, we need to examine the documents immediately." "You can examine them outside." Dahlia turned her head. "Juno." "He explicitly denied entry," Juno said. "We are leaving the floor." "I paid his parents." "That does not make him furniture." Juno took 1 suitcase. Dahlia did not move. I kept the door open only far enough to see her expression. Why did you pay them? I asked. Because the agreement said you would return as my exclusive composer and consider a formal engagement after 90 days. Consider? The wording was consider. And if I decided no? Her gaze held mine. I plan to change your mind. That answer was honest and deeply alarming. Go to a hotel, Dahlia. Rhys, if you remain outside this door, I call building security. If anyone uses the key my parents gave you, I call the police. We can communicate tomorrow through attorneys. She stared at me as if trying to find the frightened 16-year-old who always folded first. He was still inside me. He simply did not control the door anymore. Juno touched Dahlia's elbow. This time she allowed herself to be led toward the elevator. Before the doors closed, she looked back. I searched for you every day. That is not romantic when the person is hiding from you. The elevator swallowed her. I locked the deadbolt, pushed a chair under the handle, and called Kellen Pierce. Kellen was my closest friend at Northbridge Arts University and the only person who knew my real connection to Dahlia's early music. He answered on the 6th ring with his face pressed into a pillow. If this is about the toothpaste bass line, consumers cannot hear frequencies below 40 hertz. Dahlia found me. He became fully awake without moving. Do I bring a lawyer or a shovel? A lawyer. Great. Less digging. His aunt's firm handled entertainment contracts. By 2 in the morning, attorney Nico Farrow was reading the document my parents had emailed. The contract was more absurd than the phone call suggested. Halden and Moira claimed to represent my creative interests. In exchange for $100,000, they granted Dahlia 90 days of exclusive access to my songwriting services, permission to reside with me, and the right to announce an engagement if mutual affection was restored. The final page carried a digital version of my signature. It is unenforceable, Nico said during our video consultation. You are an adult. Your parents have no authority to sell your labor, housing access, or romantic consent. The forged signature makes the payment potentially criminal. Can we stop her from coming back? You documented a clear refusal. If she returns or sends people, contact police. I'll deliver a formal notice to her management in the morning. What about the $100,000? Your parents received it. Dahlia can pursue them. You owe nothing. That should have ended the crisis. Instead, Nico kept reading. Rhys, there is a schedule attached concerning your old compositions. It states that your parents controlled the catalog as guardians when the songs were created. Did you ever assign those rights after turning 18? No? Then we have a second problem. The appendix listed 43 songs. Dahlia had recorded 31 of them. 9 had reached number 1. Not one credited me. The entertainment industry knew those songs as Dahlia's intensely personal diary. Fans believed she wrote about an unnamed childhood love. Critics praised the way she transformed obsession, loneliness, and jealousy into irresistible melodies. The melodies were mine. Some had been written at 13 on my grandfather's broken piano. Others came from notebooks Dahlia carried away after rehearsal. My parents told me minors could not receive formal credit and promised the paperwork would be corrected later. Every time I asked, they said the agency was processing it. At 19, after I escaped to Northbridge, I stopped writing for Dahlia entirely. Her last 3 albums had still used unfinished demos from my old notebooks. Can I recover the rights? I asked. Possibly. We need every draft, recording, message, and witness. Do not discuss this directly with Dahlia tonight. I looked around my 1-bedroom apartment. The shelves held audio equipment purchased 1 tutoring shift at a time. The secondhand keyboard beside the window had 2 dead keys. I wrote advertising jingles under a pseudonym to pay tuition, while songs created in my childhood generated millions for strangers. My parents had not sold me once. They had been selling pieces for years. Sleep never arrived. At 6, I learned Dahlia had rented the apartment across the hall. My landlord called apologetically. The unit had been vacant for months. A corporate housing company paid 12 months in advance before he knew the tenant's name. She has the legal right to rent it, Nico told me. She does not have the right to contact or monitor you. Document everything. We can seek a protective order if her conduct crosses the line. At 7:30, I opened my door for class. Dahlia opened hers at the same moment. She wore gray sweatpants, dark glasses, and a Northbridge hoodie probably purchased from the all-night campus store. No security, no cameras, no luggage in the hall. We stood across from each other. Coincidence? I asked. I heard your lock. That is the opposite of coincidence. She held up both hands. I will not enter your apartment. Juno explained the legal situation. And the monitoring situation? Her mouth tightened. I am permitted to hear a door. You are. You are not permitted to follow me. We attend the same destination. You do not attend Northbridge. I have a meeting with the music dean. Since when? 6:12 this morning. I started toward the stairs. She remained at her door. That was new. On campus, Kellen waited beside the recording building with 2 coffees and a small fire extinguisher. Why do you have that? I asked. I did not know what kind of shovel replacement to bring. Put it away. He examined the bruise-colored shadows beneath my eyes. Did she threaten you? No. She rented the apartment across from mine. That sentence contains a threat without a verb. I told him about the catalog appendix. Kellen stopped joking. Your parents said those royalties paid for your grandparents' medical bills. Apparently they paid for cruises, debts, and now a trip to Lisbon. We will help Nico build the case. Northbridge maintains studio archives going back 15 years. My grandfather had donated rehearsal recordings from the community theater where Dahlia and I met. If those backups still existed, they could establish creation dates. Before we could visit the archive, a black van stopped outside the dean's office. Dahlia emerged with Juno and a publicist named Cora Finch. Students recognized her in seconds. The courtyard became a forest of raised phones. Dahlia ignored the crowd and walked into the administration building. Please tell me she is not enrolling, Kellen said. She has an international tour in 3 weeks. Famous people have achieved stranger time management. At 9, Northbridge announced that Dahlia Wren would fund a new vocal production lab and serve as artist-in-residence for 1 semester. The press release included a photograph of her signing the agreement at 7:45 that morning. I called Nico. Can she do that? Donating equipment is not harassment by itself. She chose my department. Context matters. Keep distance. Do not take a class she teaches. Dahlia had turned an entire university into the apartment across the hall. The first time I met her, neither of us was famous or afraid. I was 11. She was 13. Our fathers worked around the same struggling community theater. Mine repaired stage equipment when he needed money. Hers, Eamon Wren, directed musicals and believed his daughter would become a star if the world could be forced to pay attention. Dahlia already possessed the voice. What she lacked was patience. During one rehearsal, she found me playing a melody after everyone left. She sat on the dusty stage and demanded I repeat it. It sounds like a person waiting at a window, she said. I had not known music could sound like a person doing anything. Together we added words about porch lights and missed buses. The song was childish, uneven, and completely ours. For the next 3 years, we created music after school. Those memories were safe. Dahlia brought lemonade. I repaired her chords. She defended me when older performers mocked my stutter. I helped her breathe through stage fright. The danger arrived gradually. At 14, she stopped inviting other students into rehearsal. At 15, she demanded access to my messages because secrets ruin creative unity. At 16, she convinced our parents that home study would protect our careers, separating me from most friends. Whenever I resisted, she cried, threatened to abandon a performance, or reminded me that my family depended on the money her agency paid. She never needed to hit me. Everyone around us had already taught me that her success mattered more than my comfort. The locked studio was the final break. I had received admission materials from Northbridge and planned to audition without telling either family. Dahlia found the envelope. She took my phone, locked the rehearsal door, and said I would stay until I promised not to leave the city. 7 hours later, a janitor heard me pounding. Dahlia apologized through tears. My parents called it a misunderstanding between inseparable young artists. Eamon warned that scandal could destroy her career and our income. 3 weeks after turning 19, I boarded a night train with 1 backpack. My grandfather helped me change phone numbers and paid the first month of rent. He died before my first semester ended. I had spent 2 years building a life small enough to feel like mine. Now Dahlia was standing outside the Northbridge archive. She had dismissed her team. Only Juno waited at the end of the hall. I know why you are here, Dahlia said. Move away from the door. She did. Juno showed me the catalog appendix. She continued. I did not know your name had been removed from every registration. You accepted credit. The agency registered songs through a company controlled by our fathers. They told me you preferred privacy. For 31 releases? I believed you were receiving half the publishing income. I laughed once. There was nothing humorous in it. I received $300 for toothpaste music. Her face lost color. That is impossible. My parents forged one contract yesterday. Do you think it was their first? I unlocked the archive with the technician's permission. Dahlia tried to follow. No. She stopped at the threshold. Those recordings include my voice, she said. Nico will arrange supervised access after the files are preserved. Rhys, I can help. Then give my attorney every contract, demo, payment record, and message in your possession. Do not delete anything. Do not contact my parents. Do not announce an engagement. And do not turn funding this lab into a reason I owe you time. Her eyes shone with anger and humiliation. I expected the old response: pressure, tears, a threat to destroy whatever I loved until I returned. Instead, she stepped back. All right? The words sounded as unfamiliar in her mouth as no had felt in mine. Inside the archive, Kellen found the first tape before lunch. The label carried my grandfather's handwriting. Rhys and Dahlia, porch lights, first draft. 2 children laughed on the recording. My 11-year-old voice missed a note. Dahlia corrected it, then missed the next one herself. We argued, started over, and finished together. I sat in the dark listening room with headphones pressed against my ears. For years, I remembered only the cage our partnership became. The tape preserved something more complicated. Before adults discovered money in our music, before Dahlia confused love with possession, we had made something honest. That honesty did not excuse what followed. It did explain why losing it still hurt. By evening, Dahlia's legal team delivered 6 encrypted drives to Nico's office. They contained recording sessions, royalty statements, agency emails, and photographs of handwritten drafts. She also surrendered the original contract with my parents and instructed her bank to flag the payment as disputed. Cooperation should have made me trust her more. Then we opened the folder labeled RHYS. It contained 18,422 files. Kellen leaned away from the monitor. That number has committed a crime by itself. There were scanned pages from every notebook I had used as a teenager. Old rehearsal videos, screenshots from school websites, photographs of me entering competitions, a map marking cities where Dahlia's investigators believed I might have lived. Someone had collected my public tutoring advertisements, student performances, and even a blurry image of me buying laundry detergent. The final subfolder was named When He Comes Home. Inside were apartment designs, wedding locations, possible honeymoon schedules, and a spreadsheet comparing future children's names. I closed the laptop. I would like the shovel again, Kellen said. Nico remained professional, although his pen stopped moving. Did she obtain anything through unlawful access? The apartment photograph might be from a private building camera. He called Juno and requested an immediate explanation. Dahlia appeared at Nico's office 40 minutes later. She wore no disguise. Paparazzi followed her car, but she walked past them without looking. In the conference room, the laptop waited between us. You said you searched for me every day, I said. You did not mention building a private intelligence agency. I hired licensed investigators to locate someone who had not consented to contact. I thought you were in danger. From whom? Your parents said you had disappeared after your grandfather died. They claimed you were depressed, unstable, and being exploited by strangers. My jaw tightened. And the wedding spreadsheet? Dahlia looked at the table. That was not for safety. The children's names? Also not safety. Kellen made a quiet sound, like air leaving a damaged tire. Did you obtain footage from my apartment building? I asked. An investigator bought it from a former concierge. Nico wrote something down. That recording may have been acquired illegally. You will identify the investigator and preserve all communications. Dahlia's eyes remained on me. I never watched inside your apartment. The image only showed the lobby. That is not the standard. I know it looks extreme. It is extreme. I lost you. I am not an object that went missing. I made a decision. She flinched. For years, Dahlia had converted every feeling into a dramatic song where desire justified pursuit. Millions of listeners called that intensity beautiful. Sitting across from the actual person she pursued, there was no orchestra to soften it. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "End every investigation, delete nothing until Nico confirms preservation, then surrender all copies of private material. Stop renting across from me." Her head lifted. "I signed for a year. Sublet it. I will not know if you are safe. My safety is not your permission slip." Dahlia's hands closed into fists beneath the table. Her breathing became shallow. Juno noticed and placed a glass of water beside her, but Dahlia did not touch it. "If I agree," she said, "will you disappear again? You are asking me to reward basic respect with access. I am asking because I need to know." "Then the answer is that I will decide where I live and whom I contact. You may communicate about the copyright case through our attorneys. Anything more depends on your conduct, not a promise from me." Silence stretched across the room. Finally, Dahlia nodded. "Juno, end the investigator contracts. Put the apartment back on the market. Give Nico everything." Juno began typing. Dahlia stood, but her knees nearly failed. She caught the chair. "Are you all right?" Kellen asked despite himself. "No." It might have been the first unperformed answer she had given all day. Juno guided her into the hallway. Dahlia did not ask me to follow. The next morning, movers carried her suitcases out of the apartment across from mine. She never spent a full night there. That action mattered more than any apology she could have improvised. The contract story reached the internet before noon. Celebrity Ledger published photographs of the first page beneath the headline, "Dahlia Wren pays $100,000 for secret college fiancé." The forged signature was visible. So were my full name and university. Within an hour, reporters surrounded Northbridge. Fans discovered my tutoring profile. Some called me a gold digger who had hidden after living on Dahlia's songs. Others accused Dahlia of purchasing a human being. The strangest group debated whether $100,000 was insulting or an excellent price for an unknown composer. Kellen read that discussion until I removed his phone. "I was researching market sentiment," he protested, "about my purchase price. The comments agree your hair adds at least 15%. I am throwing your phone into a fountain." Northbridge Security moved our afternoon production lab online. My classmates received emails warning them not to share my location. One student ignored the warning and live-streamed outside my building until Priya Sen knocked the phone from his hand with a rolled acoustics diagram. Priya was a third-year sound engineering student with a precise ear and no patience for stupidity. We had collaborated on a chamber project the previous semester. "You owe me a new diagram," she said when I thanked her. "You hit him with paper." It was laminated. She sat beside Kellen and me in the secure studio. "Are the rumors true?" "My parents accepted the money. I did not." "And the songs?" "That part is complicated." "Complicated means true with paperwork." Priya did not ask for gossip. She helped compare archived multitracks, identifying my voice on count-ins and my keyboard technique in early demos. At 3, Dahlia released a statement. "The agreement circulating online does not represent Rhys Calder's consent. I paid his parents after being falsely told that he had approved a 90-day creative partnership and wished to repair our personal relationship. Rhys owes me no labor, contact, money, or affection. I have withdrawn all claims under the document and am cooperating with his legal representatives regarding authorship of our early catalog. Do not harass him, his classmates, or Northbridge University." There was no excuse, and no claim that love made the purchase acceptable. Her publicist probably hated it. Cora confirmed that suspicion during an emergency meeting with Nico. "An admission this direct invites civil claims." "The civil claims already exist," Nico replied. "We could have described this as a family misunderstanding. Families do not have misunderstanding privileges under contract law." Dahlia joined by video from a hotel suite. She looked as if she had not slept. "Keep the statement," she said. "Rhys should not carry the scandal for me." That afternoon, her agency removed it. Dorian Pike, chief executive of Crown Line Entertainment, replaced the post with a polished announcement blaming hackers for a fabricated contract. He declared every Dahlia Wren song properly registered and threatened legal action against anyone claiming otherwise. Dahlia reposted her original statement from a private account. Crown Line suspended the account. The conflict was no longer only between us. It had reached the machinery that profited from keeping both of us confused. Nico traced the leak to a public relations vendor hired by Crown Line. Dorian wanted to discredit me before we filed authorship claims. If I appeared to be Dahlia's secret paid boyfriend, a jury might dismiss the dispute as a romantic argument. He underestimated how much evidence my grandfather preserved. Northbridge's tapes documented 12 original songs. Cloud backups recovered another 8. Dahlia's surrendered files included messages where she told Dorian, "Rhys wrote the melody. Make sure his family is paid." Dorian answered that the Calder Publishing Company received everything required. The Calder Publishing Company existed only on paper. My father controlled it. Money entered, vanished into personal accounts, and never reached me. We filed suit against my parents, Crown Line, and the company. Halden called 5 minutes after electronic service reached his email. This time I recorded before answering. "Son, you have made a terrible mistake," he said. Ocean wind roared behind him. "Suing family over songs is ugly. Forging my signature was uglier. We spent the advance restoring our financial health. You spent it on first-class tickets. Mental health is financial health." My mother appeared over his shoulder. "Rhys, Dahlia loves you. You liked her when you were little. Why are you making this difficult?" "Because childhood friendship is not lifetime consent." Dad lowered his voice. "If you cancel the deal, we owe $100,000 we no longer have. Then return from Lisbon and speak to Nico. You would bankrupt your own parents. You created a company in my name, collected my royalties, forged my signature, and sold access to my home. I am stopping the damage. What happens afterward belongs to the people who caused it." His expression hardened. "Without us, you would be nobody. We introduced you to the Wrens. We kept you near Dahlia. Every song exists because we built the opportunity." There it was. The family belief beneath every betrayal. If they opened a door, they owned everything I made after walking through it. "You gave me an opportunity," I said. "Grandpa gave me safety. Dahlia gave the songs a voice. I gave them music. Your contribution was sending invoices." I ended the call. My hands shook for several minutes, but I did not call back. Dahlia requested one supervised meeting the following week. Nico, Juno, and a counselor named Dr. Mabel Orsini attended. The counselor's presence was Dahlia's idea. We met in a neutral rehearsal room with glass walls. Dahlia placed a notebook on the table. "Juno says I should not arrive with gifts." "Correct," Juno said. "So this belongs to you." The notebook was mine, filled with unfinished music from the year before I left. I recognized the blue tape on its spine. "Where did you get it?" "You dropped it in Studio B. I kept it." "For 2 years?" "I kept everything." That sentence could have been tender in another relationship. Here, it required examination. "Did you copy it?" Nico asked. "Yes. The copies are on the surrendered drive." "Has Crown Line accessed those songs?" Dorian photographed several pages without permission. 2 melodies appeared on my last album after producers changed the tempo. I felt sick. Even the music I chose not to finish had been taken. Dahlia pushed the notebook toward me. "I should have returned it when I found you. You should not have searched for me the way you did." "I know." "Do you?" Dr. Orsini did not answer for her. Juno did not rescue her. Dahlia folded her hands to stop them trembling. "I know that I treated fear like proof of love. When you pulled away, I moved closer. When you asked for privacy, I called privacy abandonment. I believed wanting you enough made every method temporary and therefore acceptable. And now? Now I understand that if I need to remove your choices to keep you, then I do not have a relationship. I have control." The words were correct. Correct words were only a beginning. Nico opened a written boundaries agreement. It was not romantic and did not promise reconciliation. It established conditions for limited creative contact during the copyright case. Dahlia could not visit my residence, track my location, contact my family, interfere with classmates, or use private investigators. Meetings required written scheduling and a third person. Physical contact required explicit permission. All songs created during the process would receive equal documentation before recording. Either of us could end collaboration without personal retaliation. "One more condition," I said. "No engagement language. Not in interviews, jokes, posts, or private conversations. I am not your husband, fiancé, future spouse, or property." Dahlia swallowed. May I call you my co-writer? When we actually write something. She signed. I signed beneath her. The $100,000 contract my parents created had tried to transfer my choices. This agreement did the opposite. It defined how each choice would remain mine. Our first authorized meeting lasted exactly 30 minutes. At minute 29, Dahlia asked, "Are you dating Priya Sen?" Juno closed her eyes. "No," I said. "And the answer does not change any boundary. She struck a man for you, with a laminated diagram. Lamination increases damage." Dr. Orsini wrote something on her pad. Dahlia looked toward her. "That was an observation, not a plan." "Good distinction," the counselor said. The timer rang. Dahlia stood immediately. She did not ask for 5 more minutes. As she reached the door, I spoke before deciding to. "Your statement helped." She turned. "I should have made it years ago." Yes. There was no forgiveness in the exchange. There was, however, truth. Crown Line responded to our lawsuit by canceling Dahlia's tour rehearsals and freezing the budget for her next album. Dorian claimed she had damaged the company through unauthorized admissions. Her contract still required one final studio album, but every producer on Crown Line's payroll received instructions not to work with her. The strategy was obvious. Isolate her, let the scandal grow, then offer rescue in exchange for withdrawing support from my claim. Dahlia had enough money to survive without the agency. Her musicians, dancers, and crew did not. Hundreds of people had cleared 6 months for the tour. "Dorian knows I will feel responsible for them," she said during our second supervised meeting. Priya operated the recording console. Kellen organized archived tapes. Juno and Dr. Orsini sat behind the glass. "Are you responsible?" I asked. "For choosing a public confrontation without protecting the crew?" "Partly." "And for Crown Line using workers as leverage?" "No." That distinction had taken her several therapy sessions. She placed a proposed solution on the table. Dahlia would self-fund the crew for 8 weeks while attorneys challenged the cancellation. To satisfy her album obligation, she wanted to deliver 12 newly recorded songs through an independent producer. "You want me to write them," I said. "I want to ask if you are willing to write with me under equal credit, equal ownership, and advance registration." "What happens if I say no?" I ask other composers. "And privately?" Her eyes lowered. "Privately, I will hate it. Then I will discuss that feeling with Dr. Orsini instead of making it your emergency." The counselor gave a small nod. I looked at the old notebook beside my hand. Crown Line had built Dahlia's legend on music taken from both of us. Writing again could strengthen our authorship case, but that was not the real temptation. I missed the way her voice changed a melody. That truth annoyed me. "1 song," I said. "We evaluate after 1. Dahlia's entire face brightened before she controlled it. 1 song. We began with a blank page. For the first hour, nothing worked. Dahlia suggested a dramatic chorus about crossing oceans to reclaim a lost heart. I rejected the word reclaim. I proposed a verse about forged papers. She said it sounded like a legal podcast with drums. "Your recent commercial rhymed clean with hygiene," she reminded me. The client approved that line. The client should face consequences. Priya hid a laugh behind the mixing screen. Dahlia noticed. Her gaze sharpened, moved from Priya to me, then returned to the lyric sheet. I could almost hear the old machinery in her mind. Threat identified, rival measured, access restricted. She took a breath. "Priya, was the legal podcast comment accurate?" Priya turned in her chair. "Painfully. Thank you." Another line appeared on Dr. Orsini's pad. We started over. This time I played 4 chords with space between them. Dahlia hummed instead of forcing words. Priya looped the final breath. Kellen tapped a rhythm on a cardboard archive box. The pieces settled into something restrained and unsettled. Dahlia wrote the first line. "I mistook a locked room for a home." I added, "You mistook an open door for leaving." Neither line excused the other. By sunset, we had a song called Open Door. We registered the split before recording a demo. 40% music and lyrics to me, 40% to Dahlia, 10% production to Priya, and 10% arrangement to Kellen. Everybody signed through independent accounts. Copies went to Nico and Juno. Kellen stared at his 10%. "My cardboard box has become a professional instrument." "Do not let fame change you," Priya said. "Too late. I require sparkling water. Dahlia ordered a case. That was a joke, I told her. He contributed to the song. Kellen looked emotional. Finally, an artist who respects percussion. We recorded the vocal after midnight. Dahlia stood alone beneath the studio light, headphones covering her ears. She did not perform the song like one of her polished stadium anthems. She let her voice crack on the second verse. The imperfection made every person behind the glass stop moving. When the final note ended, she looked at me for approval out of old habit. I pressed the talk button. How did it feel to you? She considered instead of asking again. Honest, uncomfortable, mine. Then keep the take. We did. The session ended at 12:40. Dahlia waited while Juno packed her files. I was coiling cables beside Priya when Dahlia approached the boundary marked on the studio floor. May I speak without the room? She asked. The glass stays visible. We stepped into the vocal booth and left the door open. I wanted to remove Priya from the session, Dahlia said. I noticed. I did not. Also noticed. Does that count as improvement? It counts as choosing not to act on a harmful impulse. Improvement is repeating the choice. She looked toward Priya, who was explaining compressor ratios to an increasingly lost Kellen. I do not dislike her, Dahlia said. You do not know her. She makes you laugh. That is allowed. I know. Her fingers tightened around the headphone cable. Knowing and tolerating are different skills. Then practice both. She nodded. As she turned away, I noticed a red mark on her palm where the connector had pressed into it. Dahlia. She stopped. The vocal was good. Her smile appeared slowly, without the triumphant certainty she wore for cameras. Thank you, co-writer. The following morning, Dorian filed an injunction to prevent Dahlia from releasing Open Door. Crownline claimed any music recorded during her contract belonged exclusively to the agency. Nico found an exception for independently funded educational collaborations. Because the session occurred at Northbridge, involved enrolled students, and divided rights before recording, Crownline's ownership claim was uncertain. Dorian responded by threatening the university. He offered to withdraw the claim if Northbridge terminated my enrollment for commercial misconduct. The dean published his letter instead. Public opinion shifted again. Students organized a campaign demanding credit for young creators. Musicians began posting stories about unpaid demos, fake work-for-hire agreements, and parents signing away children's rights. The $100,000 sale stopped looking like an isolated absurdity. It became the loudest example of a familiar system. Dahlia transferred $100,000 into an independent legal fund for exploited youth composers. She did not put my name on it or ask me to administer it. When a reporter asked whether the amount represented an attempt to buy me again, she answered, "No person can be purchased. That is the point of the fund." My father sent me a photograph of the statement, with 12 angry question marks. I forwarded it to Nico. The next obstacle came from Dahlia's father. Wren had remained silent throughout the scandal. He lived quietly outside the city and still received executive producer royalties from Dahlia's earliest albums. When Miko subpoenaed his records, Eamon appeared at Crownline headquarters beside Dorian. They held a press conference, claiming I had always chosen to remain anonymous because I lacked confidence as a performer. Eamon presented a video of 17-year-old me saying, "Let Dahlia sing it. I don't want my name anywhere." The clip ended there. The original archive tape continued for another 30 seconds. Not until we fix the second verse, my younger self said. Put both names on the demo, and after that she can sing it wherever she wants. Dorian had cut the sentence in half. We released the full tape through Nico's court filing. Eamon's credibility collapsed within hours. Dahlia watched the complete recording in the Northbridge studio. Her father's press conference played silently on another screen. "He told me you begged to stay invisible," she said. "My parents told me you demanded every song without credit." "Sometimes I did demand them." "Yes." She did not hide inside mutual victimhood. The adults had manipulated both of us, but she had still used fear and family pressure to get music from me. "I remember the last 6 songs before you left," she said. "You said you were tired. I told you the agency would replace me if you stopped. I cried until you opened the piano. I remember. I knew you did not want to write." "Yes." Tears filled her eyes. "Why did you ever come back into a room with me?" "I did not come back. You entered my university. I chose one supervised song because I want the truth documented, and because part of our work was real. Do you hate me? The old Dahlia would have required reassurance. This one asked and remained still. Some days, I said. Other days I miss who we were before everything became a transaction. Most days I feel both. She accepted the answer, though it hurt. I hate who I was with you, she whispered. Dr. Orsini spoke from the back of the room. Hate is not a plan. What will you do differently? Dahlia wiped her face. Tell the truth even when it costs me. Stop using distress to demand comfort from Rhys. Protect the crew without returning to Dorian. Continue treatment whether Rhys forgives me or not. That was a plan. Crown Line offered Dahlia a private settlement the next day. If she withdrew her statement, denied my authorship, and delivered 3 songs from the stolen notebook, Dorian would restore the tour. He also promised to keep Eamon out of the lawsuit. Dahlia forwarded the offer to Nico and rejected it in one sentence. I will not build another stage from Rhys Calder's stolen work. Dorian terminated her contract for breach. He expected panic. Instead, Dahlia announced an independent benefit concert at Northbridge's outdoor theater. All revenue would support the legal fund and the tour crew. Open Door would debut live, provided the court allowed it. 30,000 tickets sold in 9 minutes. Then the threats began. Anonymous accounts published my class schedule. A package containing a broken keyboard arrived at the department. Someone sprayed "thief" across my apartment door. Nico obtained temporary orders protecting both Dahlia and me from several identified stalkers. Dahlia did not appear at my building. She sent one message through the approved channel. I know you are safe because Juno confirmed campus security is with you. I will not ask for your location. I hate every word of that sentence, but I am keeping it. I replied, thank you for keeping it. The concert rehearsals moved to a secured theater. Priya engineered the live mix. Kellen built a percussion rig from archival objects, including the cardboard box that now traveled in a protective case. You insured cardboard? I asked. It has publishing income. Dahlia approved his logic. Our rehearsals remained professional. She arrived on time, left when sessions ended, and never asked whom I ate dinner with. The effort was visible. When Priya adjusted my collar microphone, Dahlia gripped the edge of the piano until her knuckles whitened. Do you need a break? I asked. No, I need reality. Which is? Priya is doing her job. You are allowed to be touched with your consent. My discomfort is not an emergency. Priya finished clipping the transmitter. For what it is worth, I am dating a cellist. Dahlia's shoulders relaxed. Dr. Orsini raised an eyebrow from the front row. I was already managing it, Dahlia insisted. Of course, Priya said. The rehearsal continued. 2 nights before the concert, Dahlia asked permission to show me something after the others left. Juno remained with us. She opened a small metal case containing hundreds of index cards. Each card held a detail about me. Favorite chord progressions, foods I disliked, dates of performances, phrases from conversations. My stomach tightened. This was my memory system, she said. I started it when we were 14. After you left, it became a way to pretend I still knew you. Why are you showing me? Because keeping it secretly would preserve the same fantasy. I want to destroy the private information. Some cards contain song notes we created together, so I need you and Nico to identify what belongs in the legal archive. We sorted them under a camera. Musical evidence went into sealed files. Private observations went through a shredder. One card read, Rhys pretends he dislikes applause but counts how long it lasts. I fed it into the machine. Another said, Rhys feels safe when a door is open. Dahlia held it for a moment, then gave it to me. Keep or destroy? She asked. I tore it in half myself. You do not need a file to remember that. Her eyes met mine. No. The final card was blank, except for a date. The night I ran away. What was supposed to go there? Everything we would do when you came back. And now? She placed the blank card in the shredder. Now you decide what happens next. The court ruled on concert morning. Open Door could be performed, but the recording could not be commercially released until Crown Line's ownership claim was resolved. Nico called it a narrow victory. Kellen called it the first time a judge had legally approved his cardboard box. By noon, fans filled the streets around Northbridge. The outdoor theater looked over the river, with a wide stage framed by stone arches. Dahlia had performed in larger venues, but none carried more risk. Crownline controlled her familiar songs, costumes, choreography, and touring technology. That night, she would stand without the machine that spent 10 years making her appear untouchable. I would stand beside her as a named co-writer for the first time. My parents arrived during sound check. Halden wore the same tropical shirt from the airport call. Moira dragged 2 suitcases behind her. Their vacation had ended when Nico froze the Calder publishing accounts and the Lisbon hotel demanded a different card. They somehow obtained backstage passes from Wren. "Rhys!" Mom called, hurrying toward me. "Thank goodness. We can fix everything before tonight." Security moved between us. I asked them to wait while Nico and a Northbridge administrator joined the conversation. Then I activated the recorder in plain view. Dad looked offended. "You record family now?" "Family forged documents. Recording seems proportionate." He placed a settlement on a road case. Crownline would release my parents from repayment and give me a one-time songwriting fee if I abandoned every authorship claim. The amount was $20,000. Kellen read over my shoulder. They offered 1/5 of his human purchase price for 43 songs. Dad frowned. "Who is this?" "The cardboard percussionist," Kellen said. "Show respect." Nico moved the document into an evidence sleeve. "Did Dorian Pike instruct you to deliver this?" he asked. My mother's face revealed the answer. Dad tried to recover. "Dorian is protecting everyone from a costly trial. Rhys was never supposed to become a public composer. He gets nervous. Dahlia handles attention better." "You took the royalties because I get nervous?" I asked. "We managed them." "Where are they?" "Life is expensive." "My life was expensive too. Grandpa paid my rent while you collected my music income." Mom began crying. In childhood, her tears had ended every argument. I would apologize, then solve whatever problem upset her. This time I waited. "We were drowning in debt," she said. "Eamon introduced us to Dorian. They said the songs belonged to the adults because you and Dahlia were minors. When the money started coming, we planned to save your share." "Then your father's business failed." "3 businesses," Dad corrected. She glared at him. "Dorian prepared the companies and registrations. We signed what he sent." Nico leaned forward. "Including the transfer dated after Rhys turned 18? Mom looked at the floor. "We used the signature we already had." The confession entered my recording clearly. Dad realized too late. "Stop talking, Moira." "No," she snapped. "You said the new contract would make Dahlia responsible for him. You said 100,000 would repay what we borrowed from his royalties. Now we are facing fraud charges while you keep making jokes." For once, my father had no clever answer. "Did Dahlia know my signature was forged?" I asked. "No," Mom said. "We told her you wanted to come back but felt ashamed. Halden wrote emails from an account with your old nickname. Dahlia believed they were messages you sent through us." The ground seemed to shift. Dahlia had crossed countless boundaries after I left. She had hired investigators, collected footage, and planned a future without my consent. But my parents had also fed her false evidence that I secretly wanted to be found. Again, explanation complicated the harm without erasing it. "Give Nico every email," I said. "Return whatever money remains and cooperate with the investigation." Dad folded his arms. "And if we refuse?" "Then the recording goes to the prosecutor without a cooperation note." "You would send your father to prison on the day of your big performance?" "You chose the day." Security escorted them to a private room where Nico contacted their attorney. Dahlia had watched from the far side of the stage with Juno. The moment my parents disappeared, she walked toward me, then stopped several feet away. "Would you like me near you?" she asked. Every part of me felt pulled in a different direction. Anger at my parents, anger at her, grief for the years stolen from both of us, fear of the crowd waiting outside. "Not yet." "All right." She returned to rehearsal. It was exactly what I needed. At 6, the gates opened. At 6:30, Crownline's remote system revoked the digital licenses for half our stage equipment. Screens went black. Wireless consoles demanded authorization codes. The main lighting network locked itself in maintenance mode. Dorian had not paid for the equipment, but Crownline owned the control software installed during Dahlia's canceled tour. Priya stared at the dead console. They waited until the audience entered. "Can we replace it?" Juno asked. "Not in 30 minutes. Kellen touched the cardboard box inside its case. My instrument remains independent. For once, that information was useful. Northbridge's theater existed long before digital tours. Manual lights remained in storage. The music department owned acoustic instruments, wired microphones, and an analog desk older than every student on the crew. We abandoned the planned production. Faculty rolled out upright pianos. Students carried lantern stands from the drama department. Priya rebuilt the signal path using cables and a 12-channel board with masking tape labeling its broken faders. Kellen distributed hand percussion. Dahlia watched her stadium show collapse into a campus recital. "We can postpone," Juno told her. "No," Dahlia said. "They can take their screens. They cannot take my voice." I looked at her. "The new arrangement will be exposed. No backing tracks." "Then I will miss notes, honestly." The concert began 16 minutes late. Instead of a dramatic video, Dahlia walked onto the lantern-lit stage and told the audience what happened. She did not blame technical failure. She named Crownline's remote lockout and explained that the crew rebuilt the show by hand. "Every person you see tonight owns their contribution," she said. "Their names will appear before mine." The screens were dead, so students carried painted boards listing musicians, technicians, arrangers, and stagehands. Kellen's board identified him as Archival Percussion, which was a title he had invented moments earlier. The crowd cheered louder with each name. Dahlia performed public domain standards, independent songs donated by their writers, and new compositions created after Crownline terminated her. She did not use the stolen catalog. Open Door came last. My legs shook as I walked to the piano. 30,000 faces became a dark, moving wall beyond the lanterns. I had spent years hiding behind demos and pseudonyms. The old video of me saying I did not want my name anywhere flashed through my mind. That statement had once been true. It did not have to remain true forever. Dahlia waited beside the microphone. "Do you want the stage?" she asked quietly. The audience could not hear. "Yes." She held out her hand, not touching. "May I?" I looked at it. My parents' contract had treated touch, home, labor, and marriage as one package somebody else could approve. This was only a hand. This was only a question. I placed my hand in hers. She led me into the light and released me at the piano. The applause lasted 27 seconds. I counted despite myself. Dahlia noticed. Her smile carried no ownership, only recognition. We performed. Without the polished production, the song became more intimate. My opening chords echoed through the stone arches. Dahlia's voice entered almost as a whisper. Kellen tapped the archive box. Priya shaped the room from her ancient console. On the final chorus, the audience sang the title line back to us, even though they had never heard it before. An open door is not a promise to stay. It is proof that staying is a choice. The last note disappeared into the river air. For several seconds, silence held the theater. Then the sound rose. Dahlia turned toward me with tears on her face. She did not run into my arms. She did not kiss me for the cameras or claim me in front of millions watching unofficial streams. She bowed toward the piano. "Rhys Calder," she said into the microphone. "Co-writer, composer, and owner of his own name." I stood beside her. "Dahlia Wren," I replied. "Co-writer, vocalist, and owner of her own choices." We bowed together. Backstage, the adrenaline vanished. I reached the empty prop corridor before my breathing broke. The crowd sounded like water behind the walls. My fingers went numb. Dahlia found me because she was leaving for her dressing room, not because she tracked my location. She stopped at the end of the corridor. "Do you need Juno, Kellen, or Nico?" Just silence. She sat against the opposite wall without coming closer. We remained there while my breathing slowed. After several minutes, I held out my hand. Dahlia stared at it. "You can sit closer," I said. She crossed the corridor and sat beside me. Her hand settled in mine with extreme care. "Do not turn this into a future wedding spreadsheet," I warned. A shaky laugh escaped her. The spreadsheet was deleted. Good. I remember most of it. Dahlia. Observation, not plan. I laughed too, which was probably why the panic finally loosened. We held hands until Kellen discovered us. He gasped theatrically. "Unsanctioned emotional content in a prop corridor." Dahlia released me immediately. "Rhys initiated," she said. "I require a written witness statement." "Go protect your cardboard," I told him. The benefit concert paid every crew member for the canceled rehearsal period and tripled the legal fund. Videos of the Manhwa production spread worldwide. Crown Line's sabotage became a public relations disaster. Worse for Dorian, the remote lockout left a digital trail. The software command originated from his executive account. His assistant later testified that Dorian ordered the disruption and told staff to delete access logs. Investigators added attempted evidence destruction and computer misuse to the expanding fraud case. My parents returned every document in exchange for prosecutors considering cooperation. Their accounts showed years of diverted royalties. Most of the money was gone, but property and investments were frozen for restitution. Moira admitted forging the final signature. Halden admitted impersonating me in emails to Dahlia. Both accepted plea agreements that included repayment, probation, financial monitoring, and public acknowledgement that they had no authority to manage my career. I did not ask for prison. I also did not ask prosecutors to erase consequences. For the first time, my parents had to solve a problem without selling my labor. Eamon Wren resisted longer. Discovery proved he and Dorian created the shell publisher and edited archive clips. Dahlia testified against her father, despite knowing it would end their relationship. "He will say I chose Rhys over family," she told Dr. Orsini before the deposition. "What are you choosing?" the counselor asked. "Truth, over the system that made both of us useful." Eamon settled the civil claims, surrendered his producer royalties, and faced a separate criminal investigation for fraud. Dahlia refused his demand for private forgiveness. Our fathers had believed family loyalty meant protecting the person who caused harm. We learned that real loyalty could mean refusing to help them continue. 6 months after the concert, Crown Line entered a court-supervised settlement. Authorship records for 28 songs were corrected immediately. The remaining 15 required individual evidence review. Back royalties moved into escrow. My share would cover every year of tuition I had worried about and still leave more money than I knew how to spend. I kept my tutoring job one afternoon a week. Kellen called this irrational. "You are a millionaire who teaches 12-year-olds chord theory," he said. "They already booked the semester." "Your commitment to scheduling frightens me." Priya understood. Ordinary work reminded me that money did not need to arrive with chains attached. Dahlia founded an independent label called Lantern House Records. Every contract used plain language summaries and funded separate attorneys for young artists. Juno became chief executive. Cora remained publicist after discovering she preferred honest crises to manufactured perfection. Open Door received commercial clearance and became Lantern House's first release. The credits appeared before the title. Rhys Calder, Dahlia Wren, Priya Sen, Kellen Pierce. Kellen printed the screen and framed it above his cardboard box. Dahlia and I did not start dating after the concert. That surprised the internet, our classmates, and Dahlia most of all. We attended scheduled writing sessions. Sometimes we made music. Sometimes we discussed what happened when we were young. Sometimes we ended meetings early because one of us felt defensive or overwhelmed. Trust returned like hearing after a loud show. Slowly, unevenly, and only if we stopped making more noise. She moved into a quiet apartment 15 minutes from campus. I visited for the first time 3 months after the concert, accompanied by Kellen and Priya for a Lantern House listening party. There were no photographs of me on the walls, no hidden schedule, no room prepared for an imaginary husband. The only object from our childhood was the old community theater piano, restored and placed beside an open window. "You bought Grandpa's piano?" I asked. Dahlia looked nervous. "The theater auctioned it after closing. I purchased it 5 years ago." Nico verified ownership. "If seeing it here feels wrong, it is yours." I pressed the key that used to stick. It rang clear. "Keep it for now," I said. Her shoulders relaxed. We played Porch Lights together for our friends. Not the chart version Crown Line had released years later, the uneven first arrangement, with a childish chord and missing rhyme. Priya called it structurally confused. Kellen called it emotionally vintage. Dahlia and I called it ours. The first time Dahlia asked me on a date, she submitted the request through our professional calendar. Subject: non-professional dinner, optionally. Purpose: food. Conversation: no song deliverables. Location: public, selected by Rhys. Exit terms: either person may leave at any time. Juno had clearly supervised the wording. I declined. Dahlia answered with one line: Understood. The invitation will not repeat unless you request it. For 6 weeks, it did not. We completed 4 more songs. She never turned a late session into an excuse to keep me after the scheduled time. When I canceled because of exams, she wished me luck and did not appear outside the testing hall. When Priya brought her cellist girlfriend to rehearsal, Dahlia was friendly without becoming suspiciously friendly. One Friday evening, I realized I was waiting for another invitation she had promised not to send. That was inconveniently fair. I opened the calendar myself. Subject: non-professional dinner. Purpose: I would like to spend time with you. Location: small noodle shop on River Street. Exit terms: same as your proposal. Dahlia accepted in 12 seconds. Then she sent a correction. I waited 10 seconds to avoid appearing alarming. The noodle shop had 8 tables, no private room, and a handwritten sign banning professional photography. Dahlia arrived in a cap and ordinary jacket. Juno sat in a car nearby only because a superstar could not safely move without security. For the first 20 minutes, we discussed everything except music and childhood. Dahlia had recently learned to make scrambled eggs. I had failed a dance elective. She collected antique ticket stubs. I watched terrible science fiction films while editing audio. What happens in the films? She asked. Usually scientists ignore a clear warning and open something glowing. Why? The film would be short if they respected boundaries. She stared at me, then laughed so hard she had to put down her chopsticks. The sound drew attention from another table. A student recognized her and lifted a phone. Dahlia's body stiffened. In the past, she would have grabbed my arm and announced a relationship before strangers could invent one. Instead, she asked me quietly, "Do you want to leave separately?" "No." "Together?" "Also no. I want to finish eating." We stayed. The student respected the sign and lowered the phone. Nothing exploded. The world continued even without a controlled narrative. After dinner, we walked 2 blocks to a used record store. Dahlia found an old copy of her debut album in the clearance section. $7, she said, offended. The original price was $20. The market has spoken. The market is ignorant. I bought it before she could. The liner notes credited Dorian, Eamon, and the Calder publishing shell for songs we wrote in a rehearsal room. Dahlia looked at the names. Why buy this version? To remember what changed. At the counter, the store owner recognized her and nearly dropped the receipt. Dahlia signed the album only after I asked. Beneath the false credits, she wrote, "Written by 2 children, stolen by 4 adults, returned by the truth." Outside, she stopped beneath a flickering street lamp. "Was this a date?" she asked. "Yes." "A successful one?" "Do not turn it into a performance review. I prefer measurable outcomes. I want to see you again." Her eyes widened. "That is measurable," I added. She smiled all the way to Juno's car. Dating Dahlia required patience from both of us. She had spent a decade in an industry where assistants arranged every meal, managers timed every appearance, and fans treated access to her as a prize. I had spent my adolescence believing love meant compliance, and my early adulthood avoiding anything that resembled dependence. We did not cure those histories by sharing noodles. We established new rules with Dr. Orsini. Our professional boundaries remained. Personal contact stayed separate from songwriting. Neither of us could use silence as punishment. Jealousy could be named, but not converted into restrictions. Safety decisions required discussion, unless an emergency made that impossible. Dahlia printed the rules on heavy paper. "You laminated them?" I asked. Priya demonstrated the defensive value of lamination. "This is not a weapon. Everything has secondary functions." Our second date was a public pottery class. Dahlia shaped a bowl that leaned dramatically left. I created something the instructor politely called conceptual. "Yours looks injured," Dahlia said. "Yours looks obsessed with the wall. It knows what it wants." We exchanged bowls after firing. Mine sat on her kitchen counter holding guitar picks. Hers held my spare cables and fell over twice a week. Our third date ended beneath the awning of a closed bookstore during heavy rain. Dahlia stood close enough for me to feel the warmth of her hand without touching it. "May I kiss you?" she asked. My body remembered locked doors before it remembered childhood songs. She saw hesitation and stepped back. "No explanation needed," she said. I did not say no. You did not say yes. That answer made the fear smaller. I reached for her hand. "Not tonight. Not tonight," she repeated. She did not ask on the fourth date or the fifth. On the sixth, we were sitting at the restored piano after recording the final song for our independent album. I closed the fall board and turned toward her. Dahlia. Yes? You can ask again. For someone who had performed before 80,000 people, she looked suddenly terrified. May I kiss you? Yes. She moved slowly enough for me to change my mind. Her hand rested against the piano, not on me. Our first kiss was brief and gentle. When it ended, she searched my face. Was that all right? Yes. May I? One successful outcome at a time. She laughed against my shoulder without touching until I leaned closer first. The internet learned about us 2 months later. A photographer captured us leaving Dr. Orsini's office and published the image as proof of secret couples counseling. The headline claimed our entire legal conflict had been foreplay for a publicity romance. Dahlia wanted to respond with a 12-page timeline and the photographer's complete professional history. How do you have his professional history? I asked. She looked at Juno. Juno looked at the ceiling. Public sources, Dahlia said. How many pages? 37. Delete it. There may be relevant security information. Give that section to Juno. Delete the rest. She did, although her expression suggested a national archive had burned. We released a 3-sentence statement confirming that we were dating privately and would not discuss treatment. Public reaction was chaotic but temporary. The real threat arrived without a camera. An account named True Midnight began sending Dahlia messages describing me as the thief who had weakened her. At first, the posts repeated public information. Then they included photographs of my tutoring center, my grocery route, and the window of my apartment. Juno's security team reported the account to police. They advised both of us not to alter routine until investigators identified the person, because sudden changes could reveal what information had frightened us. Dahlia agreed in the meeting. That night, she hired a separate team without telling me. They placed cameras in the hallway outside my apartment, followed my bus, and photographed everyone who entered the tutoring center. Dahlia also asked Northbridge to cancel my in-person classes for safety maintenance. The university administrator called me before acting. I knew immediately. At our next session, I placed photographs from the hidden team on the table. Dahlia's face went still. Who gave you these? That is your first question? She closed her eyes. No, my first answer should be that I hired them. After agreeing safety decisions would be shared. There is a stalker outside your home, which is why we had a police plan. Police plans wait for proof. I wanted prevention. You wanted control. I wanted you alive. The force in her voice brought the old room back between us. I stood. And the team. Not until the threat is contained. Then our personal relationship is paused until it is. Panic crossed her face. You are punishing me for protecting you. I am removing myself from a relationship where my partner secretly monitors me. Rhys, please. Do not come to my apartment. Do not call outside the approved legal channel. Juno can confirm safety updates. We return to professional meetings only after the surveillance ends and Dr. Orsini agrees. I walked out. This time, Dahlia did not lock the door. She did something almost as dangerous 3 hours later. She drove toward my apartment. Juno saw the destination and called Dr. Orsini. The counselor spoke to Dahlia through the car system while she circled the same block twice. If I see him, I can explain, Dahlia said. He understood your explanation, Dr. Orsini replied. He rejected the behavior. He could be hurt tonight, and going to him would violate the boundary he just set. What if he leaves forever? Then you will survive grief without turning it into his prison. Dahlia pulled over. She stayed in the parked car for an hour, crying and gripping the steering wheel. Then she called Juno, terminated the private team, and surrendered every image they collected to the official investigation. She did not contact me. For the next 3 weeks, we communicated only about the album through Nico and Juno. Dahlia continued therapy twice weekly. She postponed 2 promotional appearances because she did not trust herself to answer questions about me without trying to shape the story. The stalker escalated. True Midnight mailed a package to my tutoring center containing a stage knife and a note promising to cut the parasite away. Police traced fibers to a costume workshop that produced replica outfits from Dahlia's first tour. Purchase records identified the buyer as a fan club moderator named Vance Deller. Vance had attended the benefit concert, volunteered at 3 fan events, and built his online identity around protecting the pure version of Dahlia that existed before I received credit. Officers found him near Northbridge, carrying another replica knife, this one sharpened. They arrested him before he entered campus. Dahlia learned the news from Juno, not from a secret security feed. She asked permission to send one message. I agreed. I ended the surveillance team the night you asked. That does not repair the choice I made. I am relieved Vance was stopped. I will wait until you decide whether we speak again. I read it several times. My fear did not disappear because she behaved correctly afterward. Her fear did not excuse the relapse. Both facts could exist. Dr. Orsini met with us 1 week later. Dahlia did not ask to resume dating. She described every step of her decision. The threatening photograph, the belief that police were too slow, the private call, the lie by omission, and the moment she almost drove to my home. Which part concerns you most now? The counselor asked. That it felt reasonable while I did it, Dahlia answered. I used safety language and believed I had changed because my motive was fear instead of jealousy. But the result for Rhys was the same. I removed his knowledge and choice. I looked at her. Why did you stop? Because Juno and Dr. Orsini refused to help me rename the violation as love. Would you have stopped without them? She took a long time to answer. Not that night. It was painful and credible. We created a revised safety agreement. Any professional security involving me required my approval and an independent coordinator. Immediate emergencies allowed temporary action, but required disclosure as soon as possible. Dahlia would never directly control my guards, devices, or schedule. This does not mean we resume dating, I said. I understand. We resumed professional meetings first. 1 month later, I invited her to coffee. Another month after that, we tried dating again. Rebuilding did not reward her violation. It reflected the work after it. Termination of surveillance, honest disclosure, respect for distance, and acceptance that I might not return. The experience changed me, too. I had treated independence as never needing anyone. During the threat, I wanted safety, but feared that accepting help meant surrendering control. Working with Nico and an independent security coordinator taught me that consent could include support. The difference was not whether another person helped, it was whether I remained part of the decision. Dahlia learned not to stand between me and every danger. I learned that standing beside someone did not always create a cage. Our album took shape around those lessons. We called it No One Owns the Echo. Every song explored a different kind of possession. Parents claiming a child's talent, companies claiming a voice, fans claiming an image, lovers claiming each other's choices, and frightened people claiming control over the future. The final track was not a love song. It was a promise each person made to themselves. My name appeared first on half the credits. Dahlia's appeared first on the other half. Priya engineered the entire record. Kellen's cardboard box appeared on 3 tracks and received its own social media account despite my objections. The box gained 80,000 followers in a week. People value authenticity, Kellen explained. People value rectangles? Do not reduce an artist to shape. Dahlia ordered it a custom storage cabinet. Some tendencies remained impossible to cure. No One Owns the Echo released 1 year after my father's airport call. Lantern House posted full contracts beside the album credits, with private financial details removed. Listeners could see how publishing, recording, production, and performance income were divided. Other labels called the transparency naive. Young composers downloaded the templates 2 million times. The record reached #1 in 20 countries. Success created a new problem. People wanted me to become a celebrity. Interview requests filled Nico's inbox. Producers offered television appearances, clothing campaigns, and a reality show about my life with Dahlia. One network proposed the title, Bought by a Superstar. I declined all of them. Dahlia declined on my behalf once, received a 6-page reminder from Dr. Orsini, and never did it again. Their proposal was insulting, she argued. Still my proposal to reject. I forwarded the next one without opening it. That is progress. It contained a photograph of us in the preview. Did you open it? Only with one eye. Progress remained a creative definition. I agreed to one long-form interview with an independent music journalist. Priya and Kellen joined. Dahlia appeared only for the section about shared songwriting. The interviewer asked whether I worried audiences cared more about our romance than the stolen catalog. Of course, I said. Romance is easier to package than contract fraud. But the point is not whether Dahlia and I stay together. The point is that every creator owns a voice, even when their relationship changes. Dahlia heard the conditional phrase and did not react until we were off camera. You said if our relationship changes. Relationships can change. I know. You look like you want to challenge the concept in court. I am allowing reality to be theoretically possible. Generous. She squeezed my hand once and released it before the crew returned. Lantern House built a small tour around theaters rather than stadiums. Dahlia wanted the audience close enough to hear breaths between lyrics. I performed at 6 dates and continued university during the rest. She never asked me to abandon school or become her permanent composer. The first weekend apart tested us more than either expected. Dahlia wrote 14 messages and deleted 13 before sending one. Arrived safely. I hope your exam went well. I called her after finishing. 14 drafts? I asked. Juno betrayed me. What did the others say? Several requested your complete weekend schedule. One questioned why Kellen needed to study at your apartment when libraries exist. 2 were simply your name repeated many times. And you sent the normal one. I deserve recognition. I am recognizing you now. She settled into the hotel pillows with a pleased expression. We talked about everything except the locations of every person near me. On the final tour date, Dahlia introduced a song without naming me. She said it was written by someone who once believed disappearing was the only way to have a door of his own. Then she asked the audience not to search for the person behind a song unless that person chose to step forward. I watched from home. For the first time, she protected privacy by refusing to turn it into mystery marketing. The criminal and civil cases ended gradually. Dorian Pike went to trial for fraud, evidence tampering, unlawful computer access, and conspiracy. His attorneys insisted the music industry had always operated through informal family agreements. The jury decided tradition did not legalize forged signatures or deleted records. He was convicted on multiple counts and barred from managing artists while appeals proceeded. Eamon Wren avoided trial through a plea that required complete disclosure, restitution, and surrender of catalog interests. He wrote Dahlia a letter describing himself as a father who had sacrificed everything for her career. She read it once in Dr. Orsini's office. He sacrificed my childhood, she said. That was never his to offer. She did not answer. My parents complied with their plea agreements. Moira found work at a travel agency and sent monthly restitution payments. Halden attempted 2 new businesses despite financial supervision. One sold self-heating beach towels. It lasted 11 weeks. They requested family counseling. I agreed to 1 session after a year of no direct contact. Nico confirmed they had followed every order before I entered the room. Mom apologized without asking me to rescue her from guilt. Dad lasted 7 minutes before making a joke about finally receiving a famous daughter-in-law. I stood. If you turn my relationship into your achievement again, the session ends. He looked ready to argue. Mom touched his arm. He is right, she said. Dad stared at the table. I don't know how to talk when everything sounds wrong. Start by not performing. We sat again. The session did not repair a childhood. It established limited contact through letters and quarterly meetings. I did not give them money outside court restitution. I did not invite them into my career. Forgiveness, if it came, would not restore the authority they abused. The original $100,000 was recovered through the sale of my parents' luxury travel credits and a small property purchased with diverted royalties. The court returned it to Dahlia because she had made the payment. She transferred the entire sum to the Youth Composer Legal Fund. You do not have to donate it, I said. I know. And this is not a symbolic payment for me? No, it is money that entered the story through false consent. I want it to finance real choices. The fund used its first grant to help a 16-year-old drummer obtain independent advice before signing with a touring band. That result felt better than revenge. At Northbridge, I completed a research project on authorship metadata. Priya and I developed a system that embedded contributor agreements directly into studio session files, creating a time-stamped record before a song left the room. Kellen designed a physical button that marked new takes. He shaped the button like a cardboard box. This design is becoming a concern, Priya said. It is a recognizable brand. Lantern House licensed the system and funded an open-source version for schools. We named it First Credit. Dahlia tried to invest personally, I asked her to wait until the university review ended. She waited. That simple act still impressed me more than a stadium. Our relationship became less dramatic as it became more secure. We argued about ordinary things, whether dishes needed to soak overnight, how many decorative pillows could occupy one couch, and whether her security driver counted as a third person on dates. Dahlia believed decorative pillows were essential to emotional architecture. I believed they were obstacles with fabric covers. We compromised at 4. She still experienced flashes of possessiveness. At a label party, an actor kissed my cheek after mistaking me for somebody else. Dahlia broke a champagne glass in her hand. She did not break the actor. After medical staff removed a tiny shard, she found me on the balcony. "I am aware that crushing glass is not a regulated coping strategy," she said. "Correct. I did not threaten him." Also correct. "He kissed you. By mistake. His eyesight should be investigated." "Dahlia," she exhaled. "I am jealous. I know you did nothing wrong. I would like reassurance, not control." I took her bandaged hand carefully. "I am here with you because I choose to be." The tension left her shoulders. "That sentence is effective," she said. "It will stop working if you treat it like a medication you can demand every hour." "What is the recommended dosage?" "Trust has no dosage." Poorly designed system. We returned to the party together. I had my own failures. When Dahlia traveled, I sometimes ignored her messages because needing her frightened me. I told myself I was busy. In reality, silence made me feel safely unreachable. After one 2-day disappearance from our personal chat, she asked during therapy whether I wanted less contact. I realized I had used absence the way she once used pursuit, to manage fear without informing the other person. "No," I said. "I want to stop panicking when I miss someone." We agreed on one daily check-in while traveling, with no demand for immediate response. I learned to say I need space instead of vanishing. Dahlia learned that space could have a return time without becoming surveillance. Healthy love turned out to contain an unreasonable amount of scheduling. Dr. Orsini called it communication. Kellen called it relationship project management and offered to build a dashboard. We banned him from therapy conversations. 2 years after Open Door, No One Owns the Echo received 6 nominations at the Aurora Music Awards. Dahlia had attended the ceremony many times. I had watched clips while eating instant noodles. The producers wanted us to walk the red carpet together. I agreed under one condition. Every album contributor would walk with us. Priya wore a dark green suit. Kellen carried a miniature replica of the archive box inside a transparent case. Juno threatened to abandon him at the entrance. "The instrument received 3 nominations," he argued. "The instrument cannot pose for photographs." "You are limiting its agency," Dahlia sided with Kellen. The box walked the carpet. Reporters shouted questions about our relationship, the trial, and whether I had finally forgiven my parents. I answered only questions about the record. Dahlia followed my lead. Inside the arena, No One Owns the Echo won Best Engineered Album. Priya's acceptance speech explained the difference between making a voice louder and making it heard. Kellen won for innovative arrangement and thanked cardboard manufacturers worldwide. Open Door won Song of the Year. When our names were announced, Dahlia did not pull me from my seat. She waited until I stood. We walked to the stage with Priya and Kellen. The award was heavy, silver, and shaped like 2 waves crossing without swallowing each other. Dahlia spoke first. "Years ago, I believed love meant knowing somebody so completely that they could never leave. This song exists because Rhys taught me the opposite. Love requires a door, a choice, and the humility to hear no." She stepped away from the microphone. My turn. I believed safety meant never depending on anyone. Dahlia's work did not erase the harm between us, but it showed me that accountability can be repeated until it becomes character. This award belongs to everyone who documented a contribution before somebody more powerful could rename it. Priya listed the engineers. Kellen lifted the miniature box. The broadcast cut to a commercial before his second cardboard joke. Backstage, a producer asked Dahlia to pose alone with the award. She shook her head. "The song has 4 owners." We took the photograph together. That night, after the parties, Dahlia and I returned to the old community theater. Lantern House had purchased and restored it as a training center for young artists. The dusty stage where we wrote our first melody now held new lights, safe rehearsal rooms, and doors that opened from both sides. The original piano stood beneath a single work lamp. We sat on the edge of the stage with the award between us. "Do you remember what you wanted when we were children?" Dahlia asked. "A piano with functioning keys." After that, to write music people remembered. I wanted everyone in the world to know my voice. They do. She looked across the empty seats. I did not understand that being known by millions could make me less able to know myself. Do you know yourself now? More than before? Enough to know that I love you without making that love your assignment. The answer settled quietly between us. I touched her cheek. "May I kiss you?" She smiled. Yes. Even after 2 years, we still asked sometimes. Not because every familiar touch required paperwork, but because asking reminded us that closeness remained alive, not assumed. We kissed beneath the same stage light that once illuminated 2 children arguing over a missing rhyme. 6 months later, I finished my degree. There was no public proposal at graduation, no superstar waiting with a camera crew, and no dramatic ring hidden inside sheet music. Dahlia attended beside Kellen, Priya, Juno, Nico, and Dr. Orsini. She wore sunglasses and cried more than my mother, who watched through the live stream link I had chosen to send. After the ceremony, Dahlia asked what I wanted next. For the first time, the question did not contain a preferred answer. "A studio of my own," I said. "Not inside Lantern House headquarters, not at the university. Somewhere small, where I choose every project. Do you want help finding it?" "Yes. Advice, not purchase." "Understood." We spent 3 months looking. Dahlia rejected buildings with poor acoustics. I rejected buildings she clearly wanted to buy as a surprise. Eventually, we found an old radio workshop near the river. I leased it using my royalty income and hired Priya to design the room. I named it Open Frame Studio. Dahlia recorded there when invited. So did students, independent bands, and the 16-year-old drummer who received the first legal fund grant. Every session began with first credit. Nobody performed a note until names and roles were recorded. The studio became successful without becoming enormous. That was how I wanted it. Dahlia's career continued at a scale visible from space. Her independent tour broke attendance records. She acted in 2 films and rejected a third because the contract allowed producers to control her personal statements. Lantern House signed artists slowly and let several leave without retaliation when the label was not right for them. Power did not disappear. It became something we examined before using. 3 years after the $100,000 contract, Dahlia and I discussed marriage during an ordinary Sunday breakfast. She was wearing one of my old university shirts. I was trying to rescue a pancake shaped like a collapsed continent. "I would like to marry you," she said. The spatula stopped. She immediately added, "This is information, not a deadline, proposal event, or expectation of agreement. You prepared that sentence for 8 months. Only the sentence?" Her eyes moved toward the hallway closet. "What is in there?" "Nothing operational." "Dahlia." She opened the closet. Inside were 3 binders. One contained legal comparisons of marriage, domestic partnership, and separate financial arrangements. The second contained venue ideas. The third was labeled Thoughts That Are Not Plans. I opened the third. Page 1 described a small ceremony at the community theater. Page 2 listed flowers I did not dislike. Page 3 contained a rule in red ink. Do not contact vendors before Rhys says yes. Every vendor line remained blank. "You made a private wedding spreadsheet again," I said. "A binder is not a spreadsheet." "That is your defense?" The thoughts stayed thoughts. I laughed until the pancake burned. Then I closed the binder. "I would like to marry you too." Dahlia became completely still. "Is that a yes?" "It is information. I need us to discuss finances, careers, housing, touring, and whether you can survive a ceremony without controlling the flower angle." "I can delegate flowers." That sounded painful. Love requires sacrifice. Consent, not sacrifice. Love requires consent and tolerable flower angles. We spent 6 months in premarital counseling and separate legal review. Nico represented me. Dahlia hired an attorney with no connection to Lantern House. We agreed on independent property, shared household expenses, touring schedules, privacy, and what would happen if either wanted to leave. Discussing divorce before marriage did not make the promise weaker. It proved neither of us needed a trap to believe the other would stay. Only after every conversation did we choose a date. We married at the restored community theater on a quiet autumn afternoon. There were no sponsorships, exclusive magazine rights, or live stream packages. Dahlia's publicist announced that she would be unavailable for a private family event. Fans guessed immediately, but security kept the entrance calm and nobody sold a photograph. Kellen served as my witness. He wore a formal black suit and carried no cardboard during the ceremony under a written agreement negotiated by Juno. "The box is waiting at the reception," he whispered before we entered. I did not ask. Art cannot be excluded from history. Priya stood with Dahlia and inspected the theater's sound system twice. Nico kept the signed prenuptial documents locked in his office, far away from the wedding. Dr. Orsini attended as a guest and refused Dahlia's request to remain on emergency professional standby. "If you need a therapist during the vows," she said, "the wedding can wait." Dahlia accepted that logic after only one argument. My parents sat in the second row. They paid for their own travel and held no ceremonial role. Moira had completed 3 years of restitution payments. Halden had learned to make jokes about himself rather than my private life. When he saw me before the ceremony, he opened his mouth, reconsidered, and simply said, "You look happy." "I am." "Then I'm glad you invited us." It was not a perfect apology. It was an acceptable sentence. Eamon was not invited. Dahlia had not spoken to him outside legal mediation. She grieved that decision without turning grief into a reason to reverse it. The theater seats held fewer than 100 people: friends, crew members, teachers, young artists from the legal fund, and the workers who restored the building. Nobody attended because a contract promised access. I waited on the stage beside the old piano. Dahlia entered alone. She had considered asking Juno or an older mentor to accompany her, but in the end, she wanted to walk the aisle under her own power. Her dress was simple, with no designer announcement and no train requiring 6 assistants. She looked like herself, rather than a superstar's official bridal image. Halfway down the aisle, her eyes found me. She stopped. For one alarming second, I thought panic had frozen her. Then she turned toward Juno and whispered loudly enough for the front rows to hear, "I left the binder in the car." Juno closed her eyes. "Keep walking." Laughter moved through the theater. Dahlia smiled and continued. When she reached the stage, I held out my hand. She looked at it, even then waiting for certainty. "May I?" I asked. "Yes." Her fingers closed around mine. Our officiant was the retired Northbridge dean who had published Dorian's threat instead of obeying it. She began by reminding everyone that marriage was a voluntary legal relationship between 2 adults, not a family transfer, employment arrangement, or payment obligation. Kellen applauded too early. The dean stared at him until he stopped. We wrote our own vows, but exchanged them privately before the ceremony. Neither person wanted a surprise hidden inside a permanent promise. Dahlia spoke first. "Rhys, when I was young, I thought loving you meant collecting every part of you until nothing could exist beyond my reach. I cannot promise that fear or jealousy will never return. I promise to name them as mine, to ask instead of take, and to protect the door even on days when I am afraid you might use it. I choose you without claiming you." My throat tightened. I unfolded my card. "Dahlia, I once believed the only safe distance was too far for anyone to reach me. I cannot promise that I will never retreat into silence. I promise to tell you when I need space, to return when I say I will, and to accept care without confusing it with ownership. I choose to stay without surrendering myself." The dean placed the marriage certificate on the piano. It was an ordinary government form printed on ordinary paper. The filing fee had cost $35. No clause mentioned music, publicity, cohabitation services, or $100,000. Still, I read every line. Dahlia waited without teasing me. The witnesses waited too. When I reached the signature box, I thought of the birthday card my father had copied. That false mark traveled through contracts, companies, and songs until strangers used it to claim my future. I picked up the pen. "Rhys?" Dahlia said softly. "Yes?" "Are you certain?" 3 years earlier, she would have feared the answer too much to ask. "Yes." I signed my full name in my own hand. Dahlia signed beside me. Kellen and Priya witnessed. The dean checked the document, then asked whether we consented to the marriage. We each said yes. Only then did she pronounce us married. Dahlia did not pull me into a dramatic kiss. She waited, smiling through tears. "May I kiss my husband?" she asked. "You may." The kiss was warm, certain, and accompanied by Kellen finally releasing 3 years of forbidden applause. The rest of the theater joined him. At the reception, the archive box occupied its own chair beneath a sign reading, "Instrumental Contributor." Priya denied involvement. Nobody believed her. Our first dance used the original Porch Lights arrangement. A youth orchestra from the feeder program performed it with all its awkward early chords. Halfway through, Dahlia whispered, "The second verse still needs work. You had 15 years to mention that. I mentioned it on the first tape. Then why did we keep it? Because imperfect things can belong to us too." That answer carried us through the rest of the dance. Halden did not give a father's speech. Moira did not claim she had always known we belonged together. They congratulated us, respected the scheduled end of the reception, and left without asking for photographs to sell or favors for friends. Juno caught the bouquet accidentally while trying to move it away from Kellen's drink. Cora posted no image until Juno approved one photograph of the empty stage after every guest had gone. The caption read, "Two signatures, both genuine." The picture became Lantern House's most shared post. Marriage did not transform Dahlia into a calm person. On our honeymoon, an airline employee upgraded my seat but not hers because the booking system separated our reservations. Dahlia interpreted this as an organized attempt to divide a legal household. She drafted a complaint before discovering her ticket was already in first class and mine had been moved beside it. "You wrote 9 paragraphs, I said. "Preparedness prevents injustice." The injustice lasted 40 seconds. A swift victory. She deleted the complaint. We traveled for 10 days, not 4 years. Neither set of parents financed it. We turned off professional phones during breakfast and left emergency contacts with Juno. Dahlia checked mine twice. I checked hers once and admitted it. At home, we maintained separate workrooms. The door to mine had a lock. Dahlia knew the code only because I chose to share it for emergencies, and she never used it without permission. Her room contained a whiteboard of album plans, tour maps, and one section labeled Personal Thoughts. I was allowed to read it only when invited. One morning, she forgot to erase a line before inviting me inside. Husband spoke to attractive new violinist. Response plan: breathe, ask context, do not purchase or restructure orchestration. I pointed at it. "The plan worked," she said defensively. "You considered purchasing an orchestra?" "Only during the thought stage." "How much does an orchestra cost?" "Irrelevant." "You researched it." "Research is not action." I kissed her forehead. "Thank you for not buying the orchestra. I deserve recognition. You are receiving it." The attractive violinist turned out to be engaged to Kellen's cousin. Dahlia claimed she had known all along. Nobody accepted that claim. I continued running Open Frame Studio. My work expanded, but I refused projects that required me to become invisible. Some songs went to Dahlia, others went to artists at competing labels. She did not demand first access. The first time another singer took one of my songs to #1, reporters asked whether Dahlia felt threatened. "By the singer?" she replied. "No. By the producer's decision to remove the live strings?" "Deeply." It was almost a normal answer. Dahlia continued leading Lantern House and performing. She became known for contracts nearly as much as music. Critics accused her of turning personal scandal into a brand. She answered that ethical paperwork could become fashionable if enough powerful people were embarrassed by it. Dr. Orsini remained her therapist. Marriage was not graduation from treatment. Dahlia attended during peaceful months as consistently as during crises. I continued counseling too. Sometimes old memories returned when a door clicked behind me or somebody touched my phone without asking. I no longer hid those reactions until they became disappearance plans. We were not proof that every controlling relationship should become romantic. Most should end, and many must end for safety. Our story continued only because I gained distance, legal protection, independent support, and real power to refuse. Dahlia changed, while accepting that change did not guarantee my return. Love came after accountability, not instead of it. The Youth Composer Fund eventually recovered more than the original $100,000 through settlements and donations. It opened offices in 5 cities and provided independent lawyers to hundreds of young artists. A framed copy of my parents' absurd contract hung in its training room, with every signature covered. Below it, a plaque read, "No family, company, or partner owns another person's work or consent." Halden complained that the contract made him look foolish, even with names removed. "You were foolish," I told him during a quarterly call. Fair. That might have been his greatest development. On the 4th anniversary of Open Door, Dahlia and I returned to Northbridge for a workshop. Students filled the same studio where we had negotiated our first equal credit. Priya demonstrated first credit. Kellen delivered a completely unnecessary lecture about experimental percussion. At the end, a nervous first-year student asked Dahlia whether obsession made art better. The room became quiet. Dahlia considered the question. "Obsession can create energy," she said. "It can also make you believe the result excuses what you destroy." The best work I made did not come from trapping the person who inspired me. It came when he could leave the room and still chose to return. She looked through the studio glass at me. I was not standing beside her because my parents accepted money. I was not there because a forged signature assigned my time, because her fame overwhelmed my choices, or because fear had taught me obedience. I was there because the session was on my calendar and I wanted to hear what she would say. After the workshop, we walked to Open Frame Studio. The city was cold and bright. Dahlia linked her arm through mine only after I opened it toward her. "Dinner?" she asked. "At home." "I can cook." "Your scrambled eggs have improved." "I can make other food." "Name one." She remained silent for half a block. "We can order noodles," she decided. "Excellent plan." At home, the marriage certificate rested in a drawer beside our separate passports and contracts. We did not display it as proof that either person belonged to the other. Its importance came from the choice recorded there, not the paper itself. My father once tried to sell my future for $100,000. Years later, the document that changed my life cost $35. The price was meaningless. The signature was mine.